Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 24th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about storage classes. Now when I was gathering material for this tutorial, I was a little confused. Not because I did not want to discuss storage classes with you, but because I wasn't sure if you would be requiring the knowledge of storage classes as beginner level C programmers. For all practical purposes, if you're going to follow along the tutorials in this course, or even if you make C applications at your own and beginner level C applications, then you won't be needing in-depth knowledge of storage classes. But if you're a university student, then or if you're going to write an exam in C, or if you are going to apply for C jobs, then people might ask you what storage classes are. So you need to have a little bit of understanding about what these things actually are and why they exist. So let's not waste time. As you can see, I have saved a file called storage_class.c, and on line 1 I have a comment, on line 2 I have a header file, on line 3 I have the main function. So I've declared the main function, and I also have the curly braces in place, so we can type in our code between the braces. And C provides us 4 storage classes: auto, register, static, and extern. And in this tutorial we are going to talk about the auto and register storage classes. Static and extern we'll check out later in this course when we've discussed functions, and we've also talked about local and global scope, and a few more things. So for the time being, we're just gonna check out the auto and register storage classes. Now, what is a storage class? You can think of a storage class as a container. So just as there are different kinds of containers. You could have a plastic container or a metallic container. Again, it could be of steel or aluminum or some other material. So just as there are different kinds of containers, there are different kinds of storage classes. So auto is different from register because they both have different properties. And essentially what it means is that auto uses one way of storing the variables in the memory, and register uses another way of storing variables in the memory, right? So we're going to talk about that. But how do you declare a variable to be of a particular storage class? That's the first thing that you need to know. So if you want to create a variable that belongs to the auto storage class, what you have to do is type in the keyword auto, and then the data type of the variable. So if you want to create an integer variable, then you type in int, and then the name of the variable. So if I want to call my variable var, so I'll type in var, right? I'll put a semicolon at the end, and the next line I'll give my variable a value, give it 5, and that's it. You've created a auto variable of integer type, and you've given it a value. Now what this means is that this variable will be known only in this block, right? So main is a function, and it has its block, and the block is between these two curly braces. So if you would use this variable var outside this block, right? So main is a function, and your C program can have many functions. So if there is another function, suppose in your program, and if you've declared an auto variable in one block, if you try to use it in another block without declaring it again, then the program will return an error, right? So automatically your variable, the one that belongs to the auto storage class, has limited scope, and the scope is limited to the block in which the variable is created. If you've seen the tutorials in this course, the ones before this one, then you would have noticed that I did not place any keyword before the data type keyword while declaring variables. And that's because by default, all C variables belong to the auto storage class. So even if I would remove the auto keyword here, this variable var would still be of the auto storage class, right? And another thing that you should know is that if you want to see the value of a variable that belongs to the auto storage class, then it's pretty simple. You use the %d format specifier, because this one is an integer, right? And then you type in the name of the variable, and you put a semicolon to terminate the statement, and you click on build, and then you see the value 5, right? So that's pretty simple. We've seen this before. And if suppose you want to see the address of this variable in memory, then you have to use the address of operator. Now I've talked about address off when we discussed scanf, and I'm going to create another tutorial on address off operator in which we'll discuss it in detail. But all you need to know is that if you put the ampersand symbol before the name of a variable, then you get the address of the variable in memory and you don't get the value. So if I click on build and run, you see that now I see 2686748, and that's because the address of this variable in memory is that, right? So it's a numeric value. That's why we still use the %d format specifier within printf. And that's all for the auto storage class. Next we have register. So if you want to create a variable that belongs to register storage class, you have to use the keyword register, right? And then of course the data type and then the name of the variable, and then you can give it a value, right? So I'm not going to change the name or the value, but I'll have to remove this ampersand symbol, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, let's talk about what register storage class means. So if you have some variable in your program that you're going to access frequently, right? So if there's a loop counter, now we haven't talked about loops, but again, there are certain variables that you would be accessing a lot in your C programs, again and again, like 15,000 times in 15 lines. So, in such a scenario, you would want to place that variable somewhere in the memory or anywhere for that matter, so that the compiler can easily bring it whenever it has to, and so that the program, the execution basically is quick. Where does the compiler place such variables? Of course, if you won't tell it that it has to treat these certain variables in a special way, then it would put all variables in the memory. But if you declare a variable of the register storage class type, then the variable would be stored in a register instead of having a place in the memory. Now a register is also a memory component, but it's a special kind of memory place where you only keep things that you're going to access pretty often, and things that you would be calling quite a lot in your programs, right? So unless you are absolutely sure that you're going to use a variable a lot in a program, you should not declare it of the register storage class type, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is that since the variable is not being stored in memory, you should not be able to fetch the address of the variable in memory, right? Because it doesn't exist in the memory, so how will you be able to get the address? So that's why you cannot use the ampersand symbol with the register variable. So if I would save this file, and if I would click on build and run, then you would see that I get this red square box here on line 7 that, that's CodeBlock's way of telling me that there's an error on this line and I need to fix it. And if I check out the error window by going on view and then clicking on logs, you will see that in the build messages section, I get this error that on line 7, address of register variable var requested. So I've requested something that the compiler cannot provide me, so that's why there's an error. But if I would remove this ampersand symbol, and if I would just check out the value, then you would see that the value is 5, and the variable pretty much behaves the same way as an automatic or auto variable. So there you go. That's our discussion on the two storage classes, auto and register. In the next tutorial, we are going to talk about something interesting again, so stay tuned for updates, and please follow along the tutorials if you're enjoying, if you're having fun, and if you have some review comments for me, if you've got some feedback, then please shoot your messages in the comment section below. And you can also, if you use Facebook, then you can check out my Facebook page and you can leave messages there, and I will try to reply to as many of them as possible. So thank you for watching this one. The next tutorial, again, I promise, is going to be interesting and informative. So subscribe to my channel in case you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.